We are live. Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Do Knowledge Radio. Place where knowledge is born. It's your host, Knowledge Born a Lot, and we have a cultural great here today. One who is a true advocate of our culture, a wonderful African mind who deals with the ills of our society via transforming the minds of our people back to a trajectory that is on the pathway towards sovereignty, towards liberation, through the realm of the tumultuous waters of mental health. So we have an unapologetic African warrior, mama, grandmama here to show us some love and give us some guidance back towards proper thought and proper self identification. Okay? So without any further ado, it becomes my honor and privilege to introduce some, present to others, and welcome to the platform an amazing, amazing African woman. This black goddess, Arkeya, is in the building. Welcome to the platform. How you feeling? What's going
Nervous.
on?
Ah, Peace, everybody. But yeah, a little nervous. It's new for me. I'm used to one-on-one speaking, and this will be my first time really going live. As far as in an interview, and I want to tell you thank you, and I appreciate you reaching out to me so we can get this knowledge out to our people. Any
Right.
platform that we got to get this knowledge out. So I'm just honored to be in your presence.
I'm equally honored as well. This Black Goddess Empowerment series is something that was a thought child and then, became a manifestation, and it started off a little rocky. I had some questions. I had some conversations with myself, like, hey, what's going on? Like, you know, I, I'm asking brothers. I'm like, y'all don't love black women. Like, you ain't got nothing to say? Like, y'all ain't got nothing to say about them black women. Don't you got a mama and a grandmama? And then I'm like, uh, I'm like, sisters. I'm like, you don't want to talk about yourself. You don't want to take an opportunity to share some wisdom from what you learned through, your trials, your tribulations, through your journey. Do you want to just put something out there, like educate us? Because us brothers, we rock heads. You understand what I'm saying? Like we don't get it until it's gone. You see what I'm saying? So the, this is an opportunity to provide proper insight and communication, to have a dialogue and say, hey, uh, brothers should be able to tell an African woman, I love you. You know what I'm saying, and mean it. And you will be protected and affirmed in my presence. If anything comes to you in the way of danger, it got to go through me first. You know, these are cultural narratives when we are in our right mind and space, that we do. So this is something natural, instinctual, primary, as a role as an African man, and this is something that we're supposed to teach, our youth, our sons, and our extended family. Any young man we come in contact with, you know, exude that. So, like the mind state behind this series is, you know, don't believe the hype. It's a bunch of BS out there. In regards to our sisters being painted a certain kind of way, over sexualizing and the like. But this is not the African woman we know and love. You understand? Like these are manufactured by people who are outside of our culture, who seek to capitalize off of surface level misrepresentation. So, we put this series together to show, proper insight and show honor and love and say, hey, we love you. I don't care what they got to say about you out there. You understand? I don't appreciate how you're being portrayed to the world, because this is the world stage. This is a global economy, you know, and our enemies are making, hand over fist on for the misrepresentation of our sisters, of our brothers, of our youth, and giving them uh, cultural narratives to operate in that are not theirs. So we're definitely here. for it, and you have your wonderful African mind to glean from your experience. So uh, let's talk about you. I then ran my mouth, got on my soapbox and all kind of stuff just now. You understand? Let's talk about you in your journey. How did you get started? What was your catalyst to come into your African mind?
Well, honestly, I have to start off with my father. So my father was part of the Black Panther Party. My grandmother, which is my maternal grandmother, my mom's mother, she was more like really Mother Earth. Well, she is, because she's still here with us today in her right mind. She's 95, and I have a lot of her ways. And I watched that woman heal animals, people, just with her own hands, and all type of herbal medications that she made with her own hands. Like, she definitely has healing hands. So I always knew that I was a nurturer by nature, but I had tried so many like different jobs, and I'm like, I just wasn't picking up on it. In my mind, I'm like, hey, I'm going to Hollywood. I'll be singing, dancing. So it's like my nickname is Hollywood. I leave out the door one way. I come back in from school. I done threw a scarf over this way and changed my hair this way. And my mother just looking at me. And so they always call me Little Hollywood. But I look at what I take away from my childhood. So I was born and raised in Chicago, low end, exact. And I just watched how we really had a village. So I look at a lot of kids today is, even the young parents, they say, well, I'm doing this myself, or I'm a single parent. That's a problem, because my parents are not the only ones that raised me. My parents are still together today. My mom, I watched her raise so many young girls along with us. So it was totally that village living. So when I hear people talk about Chicago today, it's like, oh, it's so rough, it's shootings, it's killing. They don't understand. Like, we definitely had a village. And when drugs hit certain neighborhoods, it definitely wasn't by chance. We didn't go overseas to get them ourselves. And we lost a lot of greats. We lost a lot of greats. And I watched how, where I'm from, on 40th, no kids was like really left behind. I watched how we all ate together. Someone started to grill up, before you know it, people walking up like, hey, I got a few items to put on there, or some food, or I'll do the sides. Before you know it, it's like one big family. And I watched how my father, he did a lot with some of the young Black males, and their fathers, wasn't around or whatever. He would go to field trips with them at the schools and teaching them how to tie ties, and, just teaching that family. And I watched how my mom, she would have like, it was almost like couples therapy. She didn't even realize that she was definitely she is a natural born therapist, because she was having like couples therapy. I grew up, that's all I saw was this Black love, and kids, like, you couldn't tell us we aren't family. And what I feel like, when you're raised like that, you can't keep that to yourself. You have to get that out into the world, because we're hurting bad. And people don't like to look at that plantation living, but some of us are still stuck there. And each one of us got a piece of it, due to that little white girl or white boy planted in you. So it's like, instead of keep feeding it what it's used to, which is dysfunction, abuse, lies, like taking away your self identity, your beauty, the love of our hair. Like, I love my locks. Sometimes I just wake up and I just look in the mirror, like, I don't have to comb it. I don't have to do anything. It's my hair. So, but it took me a while to get there. So that was my childhood, but I can look at where I kind of lost it just on my own journey. And got back to it is when I just started seeing it just so many more children. Like, we kind of got used to seeing the Black fathers out the home, but then it started like with my little sister's generation. It was like it's no mothers there. Then they having like older siblings raising them the best way they knew how because they're a kid. And it just was hard. And I'm like, okay, I got to start saying something. And I didn't really know my own voice. Like, I didn't really speak up a lot. I really wasn't a big fighter or anything like that. So sometimes I think my kindness was taken for weakness and, just always vulnerable, somewhat sad sometimes. Um, but then I started getting older. And when I started having kids, it started changing because I had someone else that I needed to protect. So I'm like, okay, I wasn't used to protecting myself too much. I had siblings, but having the kids, I had somebody to protect. So then I had to teach. So every time when they would bring their friends over, they were my kids too. Because if I'm gonna get on mine, I'm getting on you too. So that's where it kind of started with me. But I got into nursing, childcare, and no matter what I got into, it was never fulfilling. So I started seeking, for my purpose. And I look at the plan is where you get to sustain yourself with, finances. I was never driven by money, never, because I always knew it really didn't matter. But of course, we living in a world where, it's built off of capitalism, and we know that don't work. Because somebody definitely has to stay poor. It's unbalanced. It's unfair. And that just wasn't what was taught to me. What was taught to me was family, love, integrity, dignity, all those great values that I adhere to. But I think with not knowing my own voice and knowing how to really speak up, most of the time I just cry because I could feel what I want to say. Then it just be the tears. And it's like, that's no good. My grandma told me, like, you get it from me. I'm like, okay, well, how do I stop it? She was like, well, you have to, sometimes you get, take deep breaths and say, hey, I want to get through this. I want to be able to teach this person because I can't teach them or talk to them if I'm sitting there crying. They can't share with me, if I'm that vulnerable. So it kind of started there where I just really wanted to use my own voice. So that's where it kind of started. But it got more into uh, learning about African liberation and Pan-Africanism. I will say that I was actually married to a man who he's he's more like he is a genius. I will say that. And he's more like a young Honorable Marcus Garvey / Malcolm X. Like you can see all of the great ancestors. I shade to them. You can see them within him. And, some would say, okay, well, why did y'all split up? It was, I'll have to, can I use the word hell? It was hell.
Yes.
Okay. It was hell trying to teach me because I was where I was, and then sometimes it's about the delivery. Like with me being a sweet person, that was told to me like that's a bad thing. Or like, oh, you so soft, you so mushy. But you can't give me that harsh delivery. I can't learn like that. Like you have to really meet me where I am and, understand me first and where I'm coming from. However, we definitely made it through that and it just started like making sense to me, and I'm like, okay, I need to listen. So when I went back to school, I went to school in Milwaukee. So I used to commute from Madison to Milwaukee. And I completed my bachelor's degree in human services. I just kept it strictly human services because I still didn't know what I really wanted to do. I just knew it had to be something in nurturing people. So then I went back to Springfield in Milwaukee and I completed my master's degree in mental health counseling. I tried to run from it. I'm like, I'm not dealing with that. I ain't dealing with that. I'm like, I'll just do the organizational leadership. She was like, it didn't roll off my tongue right. She was like, one of my professors, she said, no, you're going to get into mental health. I'm like, I don't want to get into that. So I came back home and just like started reading more things. And I'm looking at, our people. And I'm like, hey, we mentally messed up. Because I think I was looking in more into individualism, which is what we've been taught. Now we didn't start off that way. We've been taught now it's like, oh, I get mine, you get yours. Okay, well, I'm this way. If I can grow out of this, then you could grow out of that. All this individualism, and it's not empathetic at all. And that's not me. So I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll try it. And I'm telling you, honestly, from a young woman in like middle school and high school, my grades was horrible. I was always on punishment. I'm talking about always. Everybody outside kicking it, having a good time. Not me. Those grades was horrible. I don't know. I don't know. But when in my junior year, my senior year, education just it like really clicked. And I'm like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing. So it kind of really taught me how to study. I didn't really process a lot of the knowledge because I always felt, what is it doing for me spiritually? And it really wasn't. So when I got to college, I'm like, oh wait, I'm really smart. Like in my bachelor's degree, and then my master's, I kept a 3.5, then 3.8. I was like, wait a minute, I'm really smart. But what it was is, it's about me, and it's something I'm interested in. And I'm not upset with kids who choose to actually think outside the box. We not square people anyway. Everything about us is a circle. We understand that. So that's why that system, it doesn't work for us. So it's like now I'm knowing exactly what I should be doing, and it was just like coming to me naturally. And I was like, now this is good right here. And usually I don't complete things. I didn't play. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna stop. And it was like everything was happening for me not to finish my master's degree. And I had some great teachers that looked like me. And one that he chased me down because I was trying not to take his class. Because at the time I was in ministry, being raised Baptist from my mom and being raised Catholic from my father. I still take what I learned. So I don't look down on them for what they taught us. I took everything, I started taking bits and pieces, and I was like, okay, some of this is not fitting me anymore, but it's some great it's some great scriptures and stuff that makes sense to me. I can tell where it was stolen from, to be exact. And I'm like, okay, I can take this with me. And I kept that. And so the first day of class, he was talking, his name was Dr. Taki. I shade to him because he's an ancestor now, but I thank him for what he did, and taught me, because I almost had to do another semester if it wasn't for him. He chased me down. He said, hey, wasn't you in my class? I was like, yeah, but the first thing you had said something about Jesus or something. See how it's still fragile, fearful. They love us when we fearful. It looks so beautiful to them on us. And I was like, well, you start talking about that. So I got out the class and I took another class. But see, with taking that other class, that didn't, it wasn't on the same level as, one of those majors that I had to take. And I was like, those prerequisites. And I didn't know that. He was like, well, that's okay. He said, I got something for you. And he gave me these stack of books. And he was like, you need to do an essay on all these books and do your history. And I was like, okay. I mean, I had tears in my eyes. I'm like, okay. I came home and I stayed up. I studied Black music. I studied like where music came from. I studied our history and everything. When I got done with that paper, I mean, I kept writing. So I had filled up those sheets more than what they were expecting of me, because I just couldn't believe it. And I think about a year or two ago, he passed away. And I was like, wow, he gave me that knowledge. He gave me everything I needed while I was running, and that's something sometimes we so used to, just running. Never, sometimes you got to sit in it, whether it's emotions or knowledge, pain, whatever it is, sometimes you have to sit in it, that patience. There's an African proverb that says patience could cook a yam. That's the truth. We definitely need patience because everything about us was rush. Even when we think about the plantation, like you rushing us little girls to be, a woman already just rush, 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 rush. That so okay. With where we are today, even hearing like the school still teaching the same thing, like honor Abraham Lincoln. You all should be proud. They told my youngest son that, and he was like, "Mom, I didn't like how they kept telling me to honor Abraham Lincoln because he freed the slave." I said, "No, that's the difference with saying Emancipation Proclamation. Because what came with it, though? You just told these people we just free to go where we all infected, affected, impacted by all this abuse, sexual trauma, you know, separation, competition. You know, I'm like, and we just go where? And we coming back, and it's like, okay, to Stockholm. It's like, because in one sense, you my savior. You give me this image, and it's like you my savior, but in the next, you the villain. So I'm all confused, and I just I don't know. It just really got to me when seeing him being taught this same thing. I'm like, no, we got to really start talking about this stuff. We have to, because it definitely has a big effect on us. And I realized that when I would talk to people about this, they like, oh, you want to talk about all that slavery stuff. See, you want to go all the way back. And I'm like, wait, no, we still here. We got subjugation, gentrification, any cation you could think of, we got it right now. So what do you mean back then? And then I noticed that my voice started getting more powerful, more soothing when I needed to be soothing because I'm laid back. But it's like when I'm compassionate about something, I'm like, wait a minute, my eyebrows get the wrinkling up. I should get in trouble about my eyebrows. My mom tried to tell me something, and she's like, yeah, I know you're saying something because I'm seeing them eyebrows switching. So I see it now. It's just when I'm compassionate about something, it just changes my whole, like all my social cues and everything. So that's how I got to the journey of where I am.
All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Okay. So that
Yeah,
strong foundation and your commitment to the process, because
yeah.
you could have gave up at any junction. You know, you could have gave up at any junction, and you know, you said you wasn't much of a fighter, but you described a fighting existence, fighting for your identity, fighting
Mm-hmm.
for your place in the world, and this is us. Holistically, we are fighters. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
we'll fight each other too. You understand what I'm saying? So like uh, when there's wrong, we look to remedy the wrong. We the people say, "Oh, that ain't fair." You know what I'm saying? So uh, now, can we talk about this identity and
Mm-hmm.
regaining our identity?
Mm-hmm.
In the midst of this crisis.
Our identity. Well, the thing about that, with that identity, you first have to, what I have to take it from what I had to do. I started thinking about what I had to strip away. You know, so I had to look at who did society tell us, was the most beautiful, and so I started looking at that. I was learning how the Irish kind of started it first. As far as red hair, green eyes, we didn't have that. I'm looking like I don't have that. This long hair, and then it went from the Irish to the Germans. It's like, okay, you need blonde hair and blue eyes. Still not my beauty. So I got to that point, was like, well, am I really beautiful? And every time we see something about us, whether if it was at the motherland, it's like you showing us where, if we're not dirty, we poor, or we're hungry. Um, Everything about us is just ugly or ignorant. And I just kept going further back. And then when I start hearing like some of the great teachers, the master teachers, where they start talking about like ancient Kemet, and how beautiful and strong and intelligent, we really are. So I wanted to start this, really seek in within myself, and who were we and what were we before these people came to get us? Who were we before? And when I started getting to that point, I remember the first step for me was that it was really the whole outer, the external appearance first. It didn't really get to me about the inside because I've always known that I love Black. I love everything about being Black. I've always loved, I never, nobody had to teach me or tell me, you don't need to downgrade another race of people or, the other nationalities for me not to like them or be attracted to them. I just was always attracted to Black men. I was always connected with my sisters. Like I never was jealous of another Black woman, or so I felt like I've always had the inner, part, but that external I didn't, because it's like the TV all day long telling you how we should look. I remember growing up and being around some of my cousins and my siblings and friends, and how we embraced each other beauty and how we had different silhouettes. Like it was okay, even though we all had that part of about our body we may not have liked. And it's like, yeah, but you got the bigger round, but you got the breast, all those type of things. But we just like, that's okay. We get dressed, we going out, we out this piece. And I liked how we complimented each other. It's like, yeah, but you look good. Yeah, that fits you. I never was jealous of another sister. Never. So I had that down packed. It was the outer. And I remember sitting in a mirror one time. I think it was like maybe 7 years ago. I looked in the mirror, and like I used to wear all different kind of wigs, just all kinds of wigs, have my hair different, and I love the variety because some days that's just how I felt. Some days I was fierce, some days it was just like, okay, I'm professional or whatever. So hair was like a hat to me. And it just wasn't satisfying anymore. And I got in the mirror and I had to start cutting all my hair off. I was like really just cutting it off. And I remember just bawling. I was crying. I had cut it all off. But then it was like I just felt like all this sense of like inner peace. And it was like that whole I'm like, this is my identity. Like, and it fit, it's like really fit with the internal. And I was like, okay. I'm like, so who told us that we're not beautiful, whether we have hair, or not? And it just really felt good. And I started like, and I noticed the earrings got bigger. I always like accessories though. The earrings got bigger, and kind of kept my eyebrows done. And it was just like, man, I'm beautiful. Like, I'm loving this. I started going to, so if I go to work and I would just be out and about in the stores, it will be sisters coming up to me like, what made you do that? What made you cut your hair? I've been thinking about it. I don't know if I'm gonna look right. Yeah, you'll look right. And even if you don't cut it, like I remember we were going back to we get our hair washed. A lot of us didn't like our hair when our moms were plaited up. My sister, my oldest sister, she hated it. We'll get to school, she didn't already took it down, so she learned how to do hair before we did. She would go in the mirror at school and part it and put it how she wants. She come back home, it's totally different. She didn't like it. It didn't really bother me, like, oh, okay. But I noticed when I just went back natural and then it started to grow. So then I kept thinking about getting locks. And so I would get French braids sometimes. And I was like, I'm thinking about the locks. And I would get around my own people sometimes and they like, oh yeah, that stuff is a mess. They don't look right, and then I see all these guys with these locks and they don't do nothing but get in trouble. They need to cut that stuff off their head and they look a mess. It ain't combed. And I was like, y'all, where we get this from? We don't have to comb our hair if we don't want to. We so beautiful. Like it's times I used to just wake up before I had locked it and it grew like into a little fro. I didn't do anything to it. I should just take my hands and rub it, throw my earrings on. I'm out the door. It's like when when you find your true identity, to me, it's like you become so confident and it doesn't matter what people say. It's all about what you say and how you feel. And I started getting that building my professional identity and my personal identity. And when I started doing that, I was like, you can't tell me anything. But I was saying it, still being humble, not arrogant and snotty. That's not me anyway. Conceited. No, I was just confident. I still am. Like I wear something, it doesn't matter what it is. I didn't need to be branded. Because that was the other thing too. It's like we have to realize that we was taught that. We was taught that you're nothing without a brand, or we walk around and say, oh, look, I just copped this. I paid $200, $300 for that. Well, go get your change because it's really not that cute. But we don't know how to, we don't say that because we want to be validated. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be validated. But who are you getting the validation from and why? Why is it about how much money I spent? But we have to realize where it came from. And speaking of that, this book I got out, like he breaks down everything. It's the Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery by Dr. Naeem Akbar. You heard of that?
Sure do.
I know you have. Man, he talk about that and that it just start connecting. I'm like, because I wanted to know, like, man. Okay, get back to the identity. So what I highlighted when he talked about the chapter of personal inferiority, which is wrapped up in our identity. So what I highlighted, he said, many historians and slave narratives report how young children were separated from their mothers because the mother's love might cultivate some self-respect in the child. So without that self-respect, it's like, I don't know what a presence I'm walking in, and there's nothing wrong with us liking accessories and, gold chains, or we'll have our grills, all those things, but what are you if it was stripped away from you? And we get to that point, we don't know. And all that teasing, and it's strange how a lot of us go through that childhood teasing, and it's like some of us was in the same boat. I didn't understand. I never liked that teasing, and I look at how people make it like it's so normal and they dismiss the pain and hurt that it, impacted on people. They like, oh, that was just sibling rivalry. Or like, oh, we was kids. It was just a little teasing. No, that carries with us when we become adults. We don't talk about that kind of stuff, and again, and that goes part of that, that identity, because if I'm laughed at all the time, I can't wait till I get mine. Or if you tease me about what I wore, okay, then everything about me when I'm older or when I got it, I'm going to make sure that I buy this, and, nobody going to have this. Oh, I'm going to get this certain kind of car. I'm going to make sure nobody on my block, but you still on the block. Like, and it's like, I don't blame them. However, it's like, we have to start talking more about what happened. We have to, as said Kofa, we definitely have to look back, because you have to know what was back there to where we are. And our ancestors constantly tell us that there's nothing new under the sun. And we are our ancestors. So it's like, if we're going to think about it from that way, we have to know what happened then so we can see where we're going. We have to see where we're going with this, because it's just like I'm hearing it from generation to generation. It's like, oh, yeah, I was teased. Oh, I was this. Or, oh, that's why I changed this, or that's why I do this. But you still putting your worth, your identity in someone else's hand, and how they view you. And you still won't be accepted. And that's the other thing is about, this acceptance. And I kind of wrote that down. I had wrote a few things down after you and I talked the other day. Like, you inspired me. You did. You inspired me when I was talking about how, as adults today, we say things like, oh, she shouldn't behave like that, or he shouldn't behave like that. He's too old for that. And you're in relationships, and it's like not knowing how to let go because of the abandonment issues. And you said, we have to think about, as a people, we got abandonment issues way back when. spiritually and historically. And I was like, wow, that's deep. He's right. Like I thought about that. I talk a lot about this immediate, but you were so right. So right. And we long for these things. We have a lot of anger. A lot of anger. And it's justified. But should we stay there? You know, and being able to listen to one another and learn from one another. But as long as we view everything through those blue eyes, we'll never see the value within one another. And we definitely yell out. My brother-in-law, he say this all the time: Black Lives Matter, and we laugh, but it's so true. Black lives always matter, always matter. It just didn't matter to some, and some of us we adhere to that because we don't see the materialistic things. Oh, well, what you got? If you don't have anything to show for, oh, they're not listening. But if I'm on TV and I'm a celebrity, or I'm showing that I have something, you know, as far as things that's temporary, can't go with you when you leave. If I have that, then you'll listen to me. You know, it's sad. It's really sad, which is another chain to break.
That's real. That is real. And you thought that you wouldn't be able to do this. Look, you had did it, okay? You did it.
Thank you, thank you,
You did it, all right? Like you did that. Okay?
thank you.
And I think we should do a series. We got to do a series. We got to get a series together because
Okay.
there are more layers
Yes,
to,
yes.
to go into. There are more layers that you could have touched on today, but I,
Hmm.
I want to save it for a series. So I think we should set up a series. And
Okay. I
you know,
want to do it. You're right. It's definitely because it's mainly that serious that we definitely need to talk about. Is that inner child?
right.
We're struggling. We're struggling with it. I definitely would love to do that series.
So there you go. It went from
Okay.
nervous to empowered. You know what I'm saying? So we did that. So final thoughts as we close out this.
Hmm.
Talk to our sisters.
Hmm.
Give them some words of encouragement and
Hmm.
uh, you know some tips, and then tell them to come check out your series. Okay, and
Okay. Okay.
let them know. Social media acknowledgement, shout outs, any of that stuff that you want to do.
Okay. Okay. Well, just encouragement to the sisters is that even with the young ones, elder ones, like we need to connect more. And I say this when people always tell me, "You so busy." Well, I need to start making time, for my sisters. And we can start off even if it's once a month. So I would say to the sisters, get together with one another, do some things, especially if you have younger kids. That go y'all village right there. Like do some things with the kids. Sometimes have activities to do with the kids. Other times have your lady time. You know, like the other sister that was just on, she was talking about the book clubs. We need to learn together. And why not learn something that we are all interested in and that will continue to help us where we can continue to learn and teach? Because we definitely can't teach without learning. And um, so definitely connecting with one another and shop with one another. Like everything I wear, majority of everything I wear is from my sisters. Like these leather African earrings I'm wearing is from my sister. And her business is Angie Naturals. My other sister, Queen P Throne, like her earrings. Like I'm always shopping. My other sis, like her accessories. Like we have to. Our hands need to be hit so many times within our circle, and then it's what we love and having good customer service. Like, and we have to talk to each other, let each other know, like, I like how you did this, or but this was kind of broken, whatever it is. Don't put each other down like, oh, okay, I dealt with one black business, I'm not dealing with another. Like we got to get out of that. Because I promise you, when I used to eat McDonald's, they messed up a lot of times, still went back. So yeah, we got to get out of that. And then the other thing is find somebody to talk to, you know, some of those deep issues and secrets, because we only sick as our secrets. I learned that from a mentor, my clinical supervisor. He used to always say that, you know, Dr. Steve Stein, he said, we only sick as our secrets, you know, which is why some of the things that's still happening in our lives, you know, those secrets kill, secrets hurt. So we talk about things more. There it is. It's out there. I say that even to celebrities. Like, stop letting people hold things to your, you know, hold over your head. Like, some things, just go say it. And then accept that it was your past or whatever you was dealing with, so you can move on. And then I definitely, before I go, I definitely have to shout out my mom, my creator on earth, my heart, my soul. What a beautiful chocolate melanin woman, you know. Amazing. I mean, I could not be without her. My father, I'm a daddy's girl, so I could go on and on about him. I mean, he definitely, you know, great in the village, and what he still do today. Like, he just so amazing, so sweet. He taught us how a Black man should love us. But, you know, so I definitely had to shout him out. And my siblings and my brother, who still treat me like I'm a little girl. He's so amazing. So amazing. Like, I was really taught how to really love a Black man. And then all the other shout outs is like all to my sisters I connect with in Chicago, here in Madison. Like, I've met some amazing sisters that I definitely couldn't live without. You know, I'm just proud of all of them and some of the things that they're doing. So this journey that I'm on, like, it's so many people to give credit to. So many. Yeah. And again, I thank you for having me on here. And I know we got more to come.
You see them shout outs on that screen right there.
Oh, that's my baby sister.
There you go.
Yeah.
Builder. Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna adjourn for now.
Yes.
We'll be back
I'm down.
Series, okay.
Okay.
All right, so we out for now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we live again at 6:30. The Black Goddess Empowerment Series is off the chain. So catch us at 6:30 and catch us at 7:30. All right, 2 more shows to go. Shout out to y'all for hanging in there with us. We out for now.
Yeah. Now we gonna tell them that in front. We tell them like this, yo. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a African. Yeah, y'all like that? So no more. This man's mind is open. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a. Let's get back to the gritty.
Motive is best developed by recognizing the common enemy.